Welcome to Catholic Mom Mindset, a daily show where you learn to walk closely with the Holy Spirit so you can live the life God is calling you to. I'm your host, Sterling Jaquith. Let us begin.
Welcome back. Today I want to talk about this very simple concept of making peace with your childhood so that you can have peace while raising your children. And I think these things are directly related. Probably proportionally, probably mathematically somehow, but I don't know how to articulate that. So, this is my theory. The more you make peace with your childhood, with your parents, with how they raised you, with what happened, the more peace you will have showing up for your children. So let me explain. If you right now have this idea that there are things that are wrong with you or that your life is hard because of how your parents raised you, you're thinking something like, well, I'm a people pleaser because my mom was a people pleaser, or I had to please her all the time, otherwise she got mad at me. So you have a current issue that you're kind of blaming on how you were raised. If you believe that that is what is causing you pain in your current life, then you will feel a tremendous amount of pressure to, air quotes, be a good mom, or like give your children a perfect childhood so they don't have pain in their future. Okay? Totally false premise. This is not even possible. But most of us think like this. Most of us kind of grow up and we have some childhood baggage. We blame our parents. Then we have kids and then we're like, I'm not going to do that. I don't want to screw them up like my parents screwed me up, and we feel a ton of pressure. And then when you feel pressure, I promise you're not going to show up as a calm, peaceful mom. So instead, I want you to make peace with your childhood. Right now, I have never met a person where I haven't been able to very quickly help them make peace with their childhood. And I usually just ask like, okay, what was your childhood like? And they'll explain it to me. And usually there's some junk in there. And I'll say, why do you think that happened? Why do you think your dad was like that? And then pretty quickly they'll start telling me a little bit about their dad's parents, his childhood. And I'll be like, yeah, oh, that totally makes sense, doesn't it? Doesn't it make sense that a little boy who was beaten or lost a parent at an early age or had to take on too much responsibility would feel very out of control? So he would turn into an adult who hyper-controlled things. Because that's the only way he knows how to feel safe. If I just hyper-control everything in the house and everything around me, I'll be okay. And that's why your dad was so hard on you. That's why he was so strict when you were growing up. Because the little boy inside of him wanted to feel safe, and that was the only way his brain could make him feel safe. And my client will be like, oh, yeah, that totally makes sense. So when we see our parents as just, regular humans and in a psychology way, and it's usually pretty predictable, you guys, like, okay, someone who has a childhood like that is going to show up like this. And when we understand it, then we see them with compassion. Of course that's how they were. Of course that's how they treated me. And then when you make peace with them and with your childhood, it frees you up because you see that your children will get to have the very same opportunity. So somebody asked me the other day if I was worried about my kids seeing my kind of painful marriage. And we don't argue a lot, actually. We don't argue a lot in front of the kids. But for sure the kids see that we have tension and we're not like super smoochy and warm and lovely. Like I'm pretty sure my oldest two understand. And I said, no, because when I get older, I'm just going to tell them about it. Like when they're older and they're adults, I'll just explain. Like one, I had undiagnosed ADHD for 12 years, so it was like there was a third person in our marriage we didn't even know was there, causing problems. And then I'll explain, hey, people with a super high IQ and an engineering personality, like my husband, who come from severely abused childhoods, they're very hard on people. They have to create predictable environments because not having predictability freaks them out. Is that an appropriate response? No. But did he love you to pieces? Yes. And I just know as adults, I'm going to get to explain all of that to them. I'm going to explain to them where I came from and where he came from, and that we loved them, and that we worked so hard to create a beautiful life for them, which, by the way, they do have. They have a beautiful life. But they're also being raised by two human parents who have some stuff. And I'm going to have coffee with them. I'm going to have brunch with them. We're going to sit around a campfire someday, and I'm going to tell them all those things. And then they can have compassion for me. They can have compassion for what it must have been like to have 6 kids in 8 years. That's crazy. And as soon as they start having their own kids, they're going to see, oh, parenting is hard. It's very loud. And they will get to make peace with me. So I don't feel a lot of pressure to give them a perfect childhood or to get it right. I know that I'm not going to. My goal is to just educate them and give them tools and empower them so that when they're adults, they can learn what they need to learn. They can have a life coach. They can go to therapy. They can read really awesome self-development books. They can make peace with their childhood, and then they can create with intention their own life. So the better you are able to do that, the less pressure you will feel to do that for your children. And then when you don't have that pressure, do you know what happens? You show up as a peaceful, connected mom, which is what you want. You want to show up with love and peace and connection with these kids. And when you drop this idea that you have to do it right, that's how you will show up. You just trust them. You trust the journey. You trust the Lord. So take some time. We don't have to do this in one day. Take some time and think about how you can make peace with your childhood and peace with your parents. Because as soon as we see them for who they are and what they did and where they came from, they're off the hook. You get to create your life going forward. You may need some therapy to heal some things, but they're not hurting you right now. And the more you see them as just humans with human brains and experiences, the more you will have compassion for them. And then the more you will have compassion for yourself as a parent right now. And it's a beautiful thing. I've just seen so many people go through that process, and it's just a beautiful thing. Thank you so much for listening, and have a blessed day.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of Catholic Mom Mindset. To learn more about growing closer to the Holy Spirit, check out our free resources at madeforgreatness.co. Thank you so much for listening, and have a blessed day.